There you go.
Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the senior taster of Whisky.com, and today this is the third attempt to start the stream. So something very weird. We're 5 minutes late. That's the new German Pünktlichkeit.
Actually, we tried to start the first one, but after 2 attempts, we changed to the backup server of YouTube, and now we are live. Today is the Smokehead AMA Halloween live stream. AMA means just write your comments in the chat. For you, it's down below or on the side, I don't know. Somewhere is the chat, and we have the chat right next to our camera, so we can read your questions and hopefully answer the questions if they are not indecent.
Yeah, so, and in the first attempt, we removed our wonderful skull.
Yeah, we got some props from the producers.
So, and this stood here just in the middle. And so I keep it on my lap for for a time. Ooh, spooky.
I have the first question from me to myself. Why are we doing a Halloween live stream on the 22nd? Oh, was it? Today's the 22nd, right? Yeah, 21st of October. That's because on the 23rd of October, I am flying to Scotland and going to the Inner and Outer Hebrides and visiting some distilleries there. Yeah, so that's why I'm on tour during Halloween, and we really wanted to do a Halloween tasting. We've planned that, and then we realized, okay, that's a bit of a mismatch. And now, we're doing the Halloween live stream a bit early. So, happy Halloween. Yeah. So there's the first question.
Sweet or sour?
No. Is it trick or treat? I don't know. So, okay, the first one is, what does Peat make Islay Peat so special?
Yeah, so every region in Scotland has different ages of peat. Some are that old that you have really close to how it's called, brown coal, no?
Lignite or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And others are that fresh that you still find roots in it. So the kind of peat you use for drying the malt makes the aroma of the whiskey. And here we have Islay malts, and this is a single malt from Islay, but the producer does not tell us from which distillery this whiskey comes from, and it does not have to come from identical distilleries always, but it has to be from a single distillery, so it's a single malt. And we ask ourselves which distilleries might produce the malt whiskey here from the Smokehead. And well, first we had 3 distilleries, and then you talked me out of Beaumont because it's not peaty enough, and the output might not be big enough. And I think it's either Kalila or it's Bunnahabhain. Both produce very peated, smoky whiskey. And they sell it to independent bottlers. So one of those 2, I imagine, could be probably from both of them.
Yeah, that could be. You can have a single malt. You're not allowed to mix two distilleries into one bottle, but you could have like a bottling from the first distillery, and next time you take a bottling from the second distillery. But I think people might see that. He said, Flurb X-Ray. So can we expect a distillery tour on YouTube? Yes, you can. But when I'm gone, I need to film and then editing. And so, don't expect it too soon. And then we have Levon Hofhan. Oh, that's a difficult name. Is it possible to have a grain whiskey tour? I've been, I think, to 1 grain distillery in Scotland.
This is quite difficult. I had been to one, Strathclyde.
Strathclyde. I've been to Loch Lomond.
Yeah, Loch Lomond as well. but this is not a single, a clean distillery. So inside Strathclyde had been Kinclyde, which was the malt whiskey distillery in that complex that was already dismantled, everything. And I think that was the only one. The bigger ones are really industrial complexes, and they won't let you in. So this is really difficult because it's looking that industrial and does not bring a good feeling to the people. So drinking industrial alcohol.
Yeah. So why don't you pour us the first one, and I'll tell us about the story about Smokehead. And
There is a small miniature set. So we're tasting from these here.
Yeah. So Smokehead, the idea came when there was the guy from Glengoyne. He actually took a boat to Islay during the Islay festival, and he wanted to surprise people with non-smoky whiskey on Islay. And they talked a lot about the people there on Islay, and they called many of them called them Smokeheads, and that he was really so fond of that name that he then said, "Hey, I'm gonna bring out a brand that is called Smokehead." And yeah, that's kind of the birth of Smokehead, and it all started with this one here, and now it branched out to more bottlings.
This 43% ABV and costs in the mid-30s euros, dollars, pounds, wherever you live. So I don't know where the Smokehead brand is already sold to, but I think they grew the brand a lot. And the one who brought the whiskey over to Islay, the unpeated Glengoyne whiskey, he was part of the Ian MacLeod company, which which always owned, which created this brand of Smokehead.
Yeah. Someone says, what makes some peat more medicinal and others more campfire? Different factors. You can have more peat that is grown at the top, that has more roots in it, and the other one is already more rotten. That has something to do. You can have more smoke in it, and you can distill it differently, that other peat particles, some peat particles come through, some not. So there's a range of levers you can pull to affect the flavor of a whiskey and also the flavor of the smoke in the whiskey.
Yeah.
From my point of view, I think distillation might be the thing that affects it most.
No.
You don't think so?
If you look to the process, when the stillman puts the peat on the fire, then the peat starts to burn, and if you have more roots in it, it will burn hotter. And they are putting water on it. They always have a hose there and putting water on it so that the oxidization isn't that complete. And the phenols, which bring the peat into, or the smoke into the whiskey, they are not fully oxidized. They are not fully oxidized to CO2. And therefore, the cooler your fire burns, the more phenols you have, and the more smoky the whiskey will be. So if you have the typical high stinky malts from Islay, they always put water on it.
So we'll try the first one now.
Yeah, so it's intense peat smoke, very strong, and a light citrus note. Yeah, and a light citrus note behind, with a light juiciness, sweetness, a little bit. And there is already some spiciness showing through. Yeah. But most is peat smoke, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of smoke in there. And it's kind of I would say a dry smoke. And combined with a nice freshness to it. So yeah, like a second fill, bourbon cask with the citrus note, all a little bit of a what do you call it? A minty note.
So
And here we have Purple Elephant, who has a warm, intense bonfire.
and there's a question from Herbie on the Wheels. Shubhayu, is it pre-recorded? No, now you know it.
Yeah, it's hard to smell something behind the smoke. I would say in the Smokehead, there's not that much behind the smoke on the nose.
I have some citrus notes in it.
Citrus notes, yeah.
And the way you're able to smell something behind the smoke is you put your nose for a long time in the glass, and then your tastes or your receptors in your nose become used to the smoke, and then your brain says, okay, smoke, I know that, put it away, what's in there additionally. So you have to take some time to smell in it until you are used to. So if you're going somewhere where it's very stinky, you can't believe that you're walking through that, and after 5 minutes you smell nothing.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
43%. We had the tasting just before in German language, and we had those three, and now everything builds up on each other. So now I do have a lot of smoke in my mouth. It covers my mouth, and some sweet notes coming through, juicy in my mouth, light sweetness, and then there is a peppery note in the aftertaste. Yeah, and smoke. Smokehead.
It's very, very smoky. And here's I just read it, intensely rich. Yeah, it has rich flavors to it. It's more spicy. It has pepper in it. I didn't have that in the first try, but now definitely, yeah, there is pepper to it. And it's just incredibly strong for that nice citrus flavored nose in terms of everything except smoke, because on the nose there's tons of smoke, in the taste there's tons of smoke.
Samba 1230, hello, where Smokehead are from. So we said a little bit in the beginning, the people who bottle the Smokehead does not tell you because they want to produce their own brand. Smokehead should be an outstanding monolithic brand, and therefore the distillery in which it is produced would not doing good, would harm the brand approach, and they are paying not that much to the distillery that they are allowed to use the name. That's typical the problem. If you're buying casks and bottle them as single malt and you do not pay for the royalties for the name, they are all registered trademarks. You can't use that name. So therefore they, to bring this whiskey in the mid-30s euros, dollars, pounds on the market, they do have to have their own name brand and might not tell the distillery.
Yeah. So Purple Elephant says quite sweet and taste is less smoky than it smells. Yes, I'll go for the sweet as well, but it was for my first sip. Now it's not that sweet for my second sip, strangely enough. But the first sip I can remember, yeah, that was a bit sweet as well.
I still have the sweetness. And this,
I do, I don't.
And this is that I think it might be Kalila, because Kalila has this light sweet note in the taste. Might be. And Kalila started to sell malt whiskey to independent bottlers in 2007, I think. And they are bigger than Bunnahabhain, which is my second guess. And probably Smokehead switches the distillery for different bottlings.
Yeah.
Probably might be. No idea. So you can't tell it for sure.
Yeah. The thing is, what is really interesting is that the distillery who sold the casks didn't teabag them. Usually they just go, here's the contract, and also we have teabagged them. And
So teabagging means putting a spoonful or up to 1% of a different malt from a different distillery into the cask so that you can use the cask for blending, but not for a single malt.
Yes.
This is teabagging.
This is teabagging. And usually they just say it and they don't even put anything in. But when they said it, then you don't know if they've done it or not. So you're not allowed to do that.
Citrus, pepper, and sweet. Sounds like Kalila Artbeck. I do no longer believe that any cask from one of the distilleries on the south coast of Islay is leaving those distilleries to a different part than the proprietors.
Yes. Is there a peated bourbon? Yeah, I'm not quite sure if he called it a bourbon or if he didn't call that a bourbon. But there is smoky American whiskey, a few of them, and there will be also a smoky bourbon. But I don't think they do it with peat. They've done it with their local trees or something like that. Yeah. Metric spoon or imperial
System. I don't think.
Is there a metric spoon?
I don't think that there is a difference because this spoonful is.
Is there a metric spoon?
No. And I don't think that the spoon is. Is it still used? Yes, it is still used even
teaspoon.
here in Germany.
What, the teaspoon as a measurement?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Some recipes have
Some
it.
recipes have it. But it would be strange to call it a grams because nobody has like 1 or 2 grams as a scale.
Tasting now with orange gravy taste that lingers. Yes, if you have this citrus note for a little bit longer in your mouth, then it tends to move over to more juicy, more sweeter oranges or tangerines, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've planned for if we don't have any questions. So let me tell you something about Halloween. Halloween comes from the Celtic festival Samhain, which is written Samhain. And you were celebrating the end of the harvest, like everybody around that time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And yeah, then they had the tradition to put on masks and to decorate the buildings to get all the bad ghosts out. So without the Scots, we wouldn't have the celebration on the 31st of October, where everybody is dressing up as their favorite character or ghosts and little goblins. Yeah. So yeah, that's your Halloween in a nutshell. Do we have another question?
Yeah, so we take bonjour de Montreal. Bonjour from. Bonjour de. Next one is the Smokehead Rum Rebel. Mm-hmm. And this one has 3% ABV more. It's in the middle with this reddish tin, which is made from cardboard. No, it's metal. It's real metal. One of the very few metal tins still there. And tin is metal. Yeah. So this is 46%, and the whiskey is finished in Caribbean rum casks. And those Caribbean rum casks had been in former times Cuban rum casks. And then the US Americans said, you might not enter this whiskey into our country because there's a ban on Cuban.
When was the Cuban crisis?
62 or 63 or 61.
So when they had Caribbean casks on there, that must be a long time ago. But I think someone wanted to write Cuban rum casks on a.
There had been a very big
on the bottling
distillery, and they wrote on it, and
they did it.
They did it, and then they said no. So, and these bottles saying Cuban rum casks, they are very expensive today. Because they stopped it, and this is a wonderful windfall profit for the collector. if you just have such a bottle, and this is like a stamped Blue Mauritius, or how they are called. So this is 46%. You get a 3% ABV more for this bottling, and this one is more expensive. It's in the mid-50s, so definitely more expensive than the standard Smokehead. And this one has a lot of fruit. In the first steak, I hadn't had this big, juicy, fruity note in the nose. And this one has, again, this smoky ham. This is juicy. And officially they say caramelized marshmallows, or roasted marshmallows and caramelized pineapple. Yeah, an epic taste adventure. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So it's definitely much more fruity, but still the smoke dominant flavor, which is strange. If I would have them in a blind tasting after another, I wouldn't say they're from the same distillery, because the smoke feels different.
When I haven't.
Maybe. Whereas the first one was very dry and, for me, medicinal, and the second one, that feels more like a bonfire, more like a smoked ham. And that's the thing that's going on for me. It's sweet, it's smoked ham. Yes, there is some fruitiness to it. Maybe you throw in the pan where you have your smoked ham frying. You throw in a few more pineapples or something like that, and it's really nice. It's a lovely mixture.
So, our Blocks Pro said here, I don't know where it is, Smokehead single malt is pricier than standard bottling of Port Charlotte 10. Is the Smokehead better? This opens a wide discussion about the quality of whiskey, of better and not so good. And I think you have a tendency that that pricier whiskies are better than cheaper whiskies, but that tendency has a big variance.
Yep.
So that you can have a whiskey for 50, 60, which is not that good as a whiskey for 40. And with the price range even going further up to 100, 250, 200, the increase in quality, from my personal view, is less and less and less. So you gain less for every 10 euros, dollars, pounds you add. You gain less than the 10 euros before. And it might be that the Port Charlotte, wherever you live, was introduced later than the Smokehead. And then the first one has the better standing, has a broad base, and is able to have a higher price than the Port Charlotte. And Port Charlotte is not a real distillery. It's just a name, like Smokehead is a name. The distillery which stands behind, is known, and here it's not known. Yeah.
Yeah, let's try it.
Yeah. Cheers. Yeah, the spiciness is a lot stronger than with a normal Smokehead, and you typically do not know which oak is used for rum casks. So there might be some very strange oak trees used for rum casks. Most of the rum casks, I think they will be imported from the US, where the big factories produce them in millions per year. Really millions per year. So, but the spiciness is intense, really. And there's a sweet note in the back, again, probably from the rum, and some honey note and a little citrus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Intense flavor, really intense flavor. Also, again, like the first one, you have much more rich flavor in the taste than in the nose. And by rich, I mean also a little bit of a peppery note, but this one has a lot of sweet flavors to it as well. And I cannot quite make out what the sweet flavors are, but I do like it. It's really, really something else. And now it's smoky in the glass.
Yeah. There are several questions. R-Blocks Pro, I just cannot justify no age statement, less ABV and IB bottling. Well, that depends. If you have very smoky whiskey, then you aren't really able to find out the age of a whiskey. So it's just for your brain. Because every youthness in the whiskey, the more intensity, is combined with the smokiness, gives this intensity, so that higher ages for very smoky whiskies might not be the best. So you typically lose a lot of ppms of phenolic compounds due to aging. So with the air breathing in and out from the cask, you oxidize the phenols in the cask so that you're getting more completely oxidized compounds in the tasting profile, and with this the smokiness reduces. So better to have a no age statement whiskey with an age of 5, 6, 7 years than to have a 12-year-old smoky whiskey. You can see that with the standard big brands from Islay, where the smoky whiskey come from. Most of them have a young age or no age statement on it. 10 years is very popular for that. Next one from Flurbs X-Ray is it a problem for the whiskey if the tap water is so hard, I mean containing a lot of lime? My personal view for this is no. There's no problem with this water, because it may not come out of solution in the whiskey. So the lime does not really taste. If you have a very salty water, like some of these medicinal waters you're able to buy, then it's weird. And if you have sparkling water or medium gassed water, it's horrible at all, because there you have this light sour CO2 combined with water.
Isn't it that they have in Kentucky, they have the limestone that actually filters the water, so you have a lot of lime in it, but you have a very, very low iron content to it.
Hello from Denmark. What do you think about the age on the Smokehead whiskey? I think it's, as always with the non-age statement whiskies, which are peated between 5 and 7, 8 years of age. If you do have unpeated whiskey, then they tend to have a few years more. So they start at 6, 7, because otherwise you would taste the youthness of the whiskey, which is covered by the smoke here.
Yeah, and going back to the whole thing about Halloween, it is then said that the Samhain and the All Saints, All Soul, and in German is called Allerheiligen, in the matter of time just kind of mixed together, as they were kind of similar in time, and that then became the Halloween, and the tradition from America is something very different. Yeah, and what they then did with the Samhain, they actually lit candles and lanterns, and yeah, usually you had that with potatoes and also some beads, that you carved something and made something cool about that, and later they actually did that with the, what do you call it? Pumpkins, because they are just, bigger and better to carve into.
Yeah, and the specialty is you use the outer skull of the pumpkin, and the inside was Eden. There was nothing.
Yeah.
to throw away. Yeah.
Or when you have the candle in and you take the candle out and then you eat the rest.
Yeah, it stands there for a few days, and then the frost comes, and then everything is blah.
Yeah, you have to do that before that.
Yeah. So next one is called the High Voltage. It's this bottle here, and it's 58% alcohol ABV, and it's priced a little bit cheaper than the rum cask, which was in the mid-50s, and this is just in the 50s. And with these 58%, you really have comparable price per liter, per content, per volume as the normal Smokehead has.
The German tradition of Rübengeistern
I heard
may
that.
have similar Celtic roots. I have never heard about Rübengeistern. And
I heard
am from
that.
Germany.
I heard that.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
Something similar.
So it's just carving out a beet and putting a candle in, and that's Rübengeistern or what? Rübengeistern. I have to look that up. I have no idea.
So, this is 58. So I will have to dilute it. A few days ago, I had accidentally tasted a 54.5. It was very, very intense. So typically I dilute the whiskey a little bit to bring it down below 50. Otherwise, the strong alcohol typically extract the water from your tongue and from the inside of your mouth, and then the high strength paralyzes your tasting buds, and then you're tasting nothing. So adding a little water, I think, is mandatory for these kinds of whiskies. Greetings from Ohio. Yeah, Big Ed. Yeah, smoky, of course, as the others before. A little fresh. I do have a cereal note in it, not definitely maltiness, probably maltiness. Yeah. And it's cooling. The strong alcohol is cooling. Yeah. Have tried high voltage before. It's certainly not a subtle one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the high voltage is a bit younger from my point of view, because when you put in your nose a bit too deep, you might catch the alcohol, and that kind of gives you a bit of a feeling of that high voltage that just hits you a little bit. And yeah, so it's fresh. It feels a little bit like the first one, except it's a bit more fresh, I would say. Still smoky, but not as smoky as the first one, more the freshness.
Yeah. So this is cooling.
Yeah. In my youth, he says, Flurb X-Ray, he tells us that in his youth he did lanterns from beetroots. Beetroots are not just the red ones, right?
No, white bigger ones.
The white bigger ones.
So you typically feed pigs, swines with it.
But the sugar ones are...
Probably, yeah. The more sugar ones.
That's a bit of a tradition that has been lost in time. It didn't reach me.
I got a little bit of charcoal in it.
White bigger ones are turnips.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now I'm not. The whiskey is not that cool, and more smokiness arises. There's a light nutty note in it as well, and the citrus notes becoming bigger. So this high voltage is relative to the first one. So the second one is really different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, your turn.
Oh, my turn. Yeah. It's still nice. It just opened it up. It's a bit more fruity, and from my point of view, this time it's much more smoky. Before, I think it was less smoky when I added water. But still, nice whiskey.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
I got the charcoal in my mouth. It's oily, very oily. So I can see the marks on the glass, very good. And a little salt, remembrance of salt comes through. And the aftertaste is smoky. It covers my mouth from the inside. And it's not too strong, but it's definitely spicy in the long aftertaste. Nothing of bitterness, because the whiskey is too young to extract all those tannins, delivering the bitterness to the whiskey. Yeah, so definitely strong, intense. Yeah.
Strong and intense is definitely the thing here. Didn't dilute it that much, but here in the taste it became a bit less smoky and a bit more, interesting. Oh, now comes the smoke. It's rising a little bit, but it's a fresh one. It's not as fresh as the normal Smokehead, and for me it's much more sweeter and wholesome with a bit of a, I don't know, maybe a little bit vanilla, a bit of a bourbon character going on, but also maybe a little bit of a bread thing going on. Not as rye bread, but this time more it's like a bit of a white bread thing going on.
Yeah, St. Martin. This is now called, because it's a Christian tradition, it's now called the Festival of Lights on the 11th of November. We typically had lanterns built by the kids themselves and candles in it, and typically 5 of them burnt during the march and singing songs. Yeah.
Festival of Lights is the old Saint Martin, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a Sint Martin in
Saint Martin.
Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Sint means saint and Martin is Martin.
Yeah, it's kind of like all of them have a similar tradition. Hey, we just got the harvest, we're all happy, everything's full, let's light up, and
today they have LEDs with.
Yeah, they just move out and then dug in for the winter.
Hambleton lad. Are the barrels? These are matured in, chosen by the bottler or the distillery. Typically, if you make a contract or are allowed to make a contract with a distillery, then you have to bring your own casks. And typically, because warehouses are short at the place of the distillery because they are hundreds of years old, and very often building new warehouses is very complicated due to red tape work. So you have to carry the cask with you. You have to put them to rest somewhere else. So you buy your own cask, you move to the distillery, and you have to have half a lorry or a full lorry. So you have 40 to 80 casks you have to fill. So it's not that easy to get your casks filled and to go there and say, I will like to have 3 casks filled. Forget that. So you have to have a full load coming and going. And then very often with the independent bottlers, those casks are too much for a single independent bottler because you have tens of thousands of bottles in that lorry or in the cask of that lorry, and therefore they spread those casks among each other. And the one who ordered tastes them all first, keeps the best, and gives the others to those other bottlers. And this depends very much, and then the independent bottler starts to have some finishing to get the cask better than that what they got from their counterparts, and so Smokehead starts to finish, what a lot of bottlers do, and this is Ian MacLeod, independent bottler, who owns the brand Smokehead, and they have, I think, this one and a sherry cask maturated whiskey as well, and I think there will be a next one coming out on the market.
Yeah, there is a rumor.
So if we have rum, if we have sherry, I would get port.
Maybe.
I have no idea, so it's a rough guess.
Yeah, maybe a non-smoky one. Nah, they won't do that.
Non-smoky Smokehead.
Unfortunately, it's not out in which direction it's going, so we really don't have an idea yet. So, yeah.
Oh, there were greetings from a wet and windy UK without a prime minister. Shortest prime minister. Wow. What was going on there?
Yeah, so do you have a different opinion of what was the best one? Mine stayed the same. No, mine stayed the same. So if you have them in front of you, then please write. Just choose here in the questionnaire, and please write into the chat your preference as of here is 3, 2, 1. So if you think this one was the best one, you go 1, 2, 3, or in
Oh, it changed.
It changed. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it didn't change. For me, it was still 2, 3, 1.
So the one developed a licorice note in it, and licorice is not my favorite taste. And now I'm going to have, I think they're finished, haven't they? Yeah, not so many on. So I have 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
But 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
And the licorice was not good, or what?
No, it's not my favorite.
Okay, Purple Elephant has 3, 2, 1, like you do. And Aaron Jones has 2, 3, 1, like I did. And yeah. So the best one was Rum Rebel was second now.
But
And High Voltage was number 3 in the questionnaire. Okay. Very different to what we had in the German tasting one hour before.
Welsh Tower, Boris Johnson is rumored for a comeback. Yes, I heard that. And I'm not joking about that. And it's also, there are rumors that now in the midterms, the Republicans will have a big success. And that there will be, no, excuse me, Donald Trump be back on scene again. Helmut Kohl is there.
Helmut Kohl is going to come back. We just dig him up. And we get him back. Yeah, politics are really a big topic right now. And I'm not really fond of that. I really like to enjoy my whiskey, really. I will be there. I'll be over in the UK when they have that discussion. So that'll be in the evening if you turn on the tally or something. Oh my god. If you have someone to discuss, I don't want to discuss anything with that. They just got a new king, so yeah, so let me do a better announcement, some advertisement for the next live tasting, like always when we finish one. The next live tasting will be on the 11th of November 2022, so it will be in not just a month, so a bit shorter than a month, and it will be about Talisker, which is in the Inner Hebrides. Where to find that? It's on Whisky.com/live, and if you want to know when that is in your time zone, just click on the event and it will tell you when it is. Yeah, so
Aloha from Hawaii. Very
nice.
good. Just woke up.
It'll probably be light out from where he is. Yeah. Okay, so do you have anything else?
No.
So then, thank you very much for tasting with us. I think we had 2 or 3 people who actually are tasting with us. We kind of felt that, and yeah, thank you very much for watching and chatting with us in the chat. That was really nice. Thank you, and see you next time.